Hi everybody. Snow fell heavily on a winter night. The quiet streets of Quebec City suddenly filled with sirens and flashing red and blue lights. That night, in January 2017, became one of the darkest chapters for Muslims in Canada. A mosque was attacked, 6 worshippers were killed while in prostration, and dozens more were injured. The world was stunned. That tragedy became a stark symbol of how severe the trials faced by Muslims in Canada were at the time. They made up only 3 to 5% of the total population, a tiny minority amid a vast secular Western society. The word Islam was often linked with terrorism. Wearing a hijab was seen as suspicious. Mosques stood in constant worry, always on guard against hate attacks. In the media, stories about Islam were more often framed negatively. Words like radical, danger, and extremist unfairly stuck to the faces of Canadian Muslims. Many Muslim families lived in fear, afraid of being mocked at school, rejected at work, or even afraid of simply wearing their religious symbols. Yet, beneath that pressure, a question began to stir in the hearts of some Canadians themselves. If Islam is truly bad, why do so many Muslims remain patient, keep smiling, and continue doing good even when they are hated? That small question marked the beginning of a great change. From the darkness of hatred, the light of Islam slowly began to seep into the hearts of many Canadians. After the dark age of Islamophobia, a strange phenomenon began to attract attention. Amid the rising tide of hatred, more and more Canadians were actually seeking to learn about Islam. It started simply. An atheist student in Toronto, who initially wanted to prove the errors of the Quran, was left stunned after reading it. He said, "I searched for flaws, but what I found was the truth." That story spread, sparking curiosity in many others. Videos explaining Islam went viral on social media. Debates between Muslim scholars and Western academics began drawing millions of viewers. Shockingly, many ended in tears and declarations of faith. The phenomenon grew like a wave. In mosques, every week there were new conversion ceremonies. Young people, environmental activists, university professors, even former politicians, all recited the Shahada with deep emotion. "I once thought Islam was a threat. But it turned out Islam was what saved my life," said a former feminist activist in Montreal, now wearing the hijab and actively engaged in da'wah. Canadian media, once eager to portray Islam negatively, suddenly had to face an unexpected reality. Islam was not merely surviving the pressure, it was growing. From thousands to millions. From one city, spreading across the nation. This wave of converts was no longer just a social phenomenon. It had transformed into the greatest spiritual revolution in Canada's history. That morning, the air in Toronto felt different. Amid the towering skyscrapers, the call to prayer echoed through loudspeakers from the minarets of newly built mosques standing tall. People paused, turned their heads, and smiled. Canada had changed. The latest national census shocked the world. 85% of Canada's population now identified as Muslim. A figure once unimaginable just 2 decades earlier had now become a recorded reality in the pages of history. From a country that once had only a handful of mosques, now thousands of houses of worship stood proudly from Vancouver to Halifax. Friday was no longer just the start of the weekend, but a national day for congregational prayer. Stadiums that once overflowed with ice hockey matches were now filled with seas of worshippers during Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. Canada's red and white flag with its maple leaf often stood alongside beautiful calligraphy inscribed with La ilaha illallah. This transformation did not happen overnight. It was born of the long struggle of Muslims, their patience in facing discrimination, and the sincerity of their da'wah that touched the hearts of many Canadians. A government official proudly declared, "Canada was once known for its cold snow. Now, the world knows Canada for the warmth of Islam's light." The global media was stunned. The West, long seen as distant from religion, had suddenly given rise to one of the largest Muslim communities on earth. Canada had turned a new page, becoming a Muslim-majority nation in the heart of the Western world. The news spread like lightning. The international community was stunned when Canada was officially declared a Muslim-majority nation. European media described it as the spiritual revolution in the north, while Middle Eastern newspapers called it the light of Islam from the land of snow. Thousands of students from Asia, Africa, and the Middle East flocked to Canada. They came not only to study technology, science, and economics, but also to witness firsthand how Islam could coexist with Western modernity. Major universities in Toronto, Ottawa, and Vancouver opened special programs on the modern Islamic civilization of Canada. Many other nations began to look to Canada as a model. The Turkish government referred to Canada as the bridge between Islam and the West. Even European countries that had long resisted Islamic influence began to soften after seeing the reality Islam could bring peace, unity, and progress. On the international stage, Canada's voice grew louder. Once known only for its snow, forests, and ice hockey, Canada was now recognized for an Islamic civilization intertwined with technology and democracy. A diplomat from Asia remarked in admiration, "Canada has proven that Islam is not only for the East. Islam belongs to the world." Now, it was no longer only Mecca and Medina that drew the world's attention. Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver, too, stood in the spotlight, as symbols that the light of Islam could shine even in the very heart of the Western world. Snow still falls at night. Yet now, every flake that touches the ground seems to carry a new message. Islam has found its home in the heart of the Western world. Canada, once a symbol of coldness toward Islam, has now become a land that warms the hearts of billions. From Quebec to Vancouver, the light of faith illuminates the streets, mosques stand as centers of brotherhood, and Muslims live side by side in peace. The world looks on in awe. Canada is no longer just a country, it has become a beacon of modern Islam, a place where faith, knowledge, and progress unite. This journey is proof, though once mocked, marginalized, and even oppressed, Islam will always rise. The light of Allah will never be extinguished. And in this land of snow, that light now shines the brightest. History has always written great stories from the most unexpected places. And now, Canada has become one of them. From a land once shrouded in prejudice, a new nation has emerged with the burning spirit of Islam. This is no longer just about conversion stories, nor merely a cultural shift. It is a civilizational transformation. Mosques are not only places of worship, but centers of knowledge and brotherhood. The Quran is studied not only by Muslims, but also by non-Muslims who are captivated by its beauty. Canada's younger generation is now growing with a new identity, Muslim, modern, and progressive. The world is left wondering. Is this the beginning of a global Islamic revival? Is Canada the sign that the West and Islam can finally unite? One thing is certain, the light now shining in this land of snow can no longer be extinguished. Canada has opened the path, and the world is witnessing the birth of a new Islamic era in the West. Amid the endless expanse of falling snow, Canada now stands with a new face. Once known as a land of cold, it has become a nation that warms the world with the light of Islam. The long journey from discrimination to glory was no coincidence. It is proof that truth will always find its way. That the light of Allah will never be extinguished, even when storms of hatred once tried to snuff it out. Now, from the grand mosques rising in Toronto, from the call to prayer echoing through the skies of Vancouver, from the young Muslim generation growing with steadfast faith in Ottawa, the world beholds a new reality. Islam lives, Islam rises, Islam endures. Canada is no longer just a country on the world map. It has become a symbol of hope for the Ummah, a beacon proving that Islam can stand tall anywhere, even in the very heart of the Western world. And history will remember. From the land of snow, was born a light that shines upon the world.